and then we decide where to go, the rotation eventually of the place that we're visiting, on a very short notice normally, unless sometimes it happens, we have a very steady, stable condition for a day, 2 days, so good weather condition. We've been there, very calm, beautiful sunrise in the morning, or actually we don't use sunrise because the sun is always up, but the beginning of the day, let's say, from twilight to proper light, perfect, with the sun coming up, and some other day you have fog and you don't see anything. So it is a very unpredictable. It is the way it is. It's Antarctica. It's not a cruise in the Caribbean. It's very different. So you also have to come down here with this picture in your mind. Nothing in Antarctica or any place like that. If you go into the North Pole, it's very similar. Greenland, west coast of Greenland. It is very possible that something that we hope to do it, we don't do. But, we have alternatives. So by the time we go, you will have seen something definitely that will stay with you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Can you introduce the gentleman to our
Adriano.
left?
Hello, good morning.
What does he do?
Good morning.
What is he doing? Is making sure that I don't do big mistakes. So Adriano is a position in our fleet, not only on the ship in Antarctica, but definitely we need it here. He is the voyage planning officer. Adriano is the one that prepares the route that we're going.
The one to blame, basically.
Not really. Not really. So there is a legal side that we have to cover. So whenever we plan a cruise, a route, a track, there are certain parameters that we have to maintain, fulfill, requirements. So it does all this. Plus, in Antarctica, of course, we're looking into the scenic of what we do, because just taking you around in a circle, it doesn't bring to anything. So we have to find an interesting place to go safely. So that's what Adriano does. He's not alone. It's a team of people up, but Adriano is the one leading the planning team. Of course, we work side by side constantly. Adriano was with me during the pandemic on this ship in Singapore, 2021, doing very different job. I mean, he was still a deck officer, but in a more junior position. He grew up very quickly to this position because he's very capable officer and also dedicated, and he had in a way, the luck to be on a ship that was going to a place like Antarctica. So not many ships come down here. Yesterday, probably you've seen this expedition cruises. The port was busy, but if you look at the big picture around the world, we're talking about still very few ships compared if you move to other parts of the world. So that's what we do. Adriano does the red line behind us, up there.
Ciao Adriano, where are you from?
Oh, good morning again. As I'm sure you can address by my accent, I'm Italian. Come mainly from the south Italy, so it's very strange that actually I kind of become one of the ice experts, because obviously ice is not really something that we do belong to Italy. But again, thanks again, Captain, for all your words. And I want to add just on what Captain said. And obviously here there's not a kind of fixed itinerary. So we can promise to you that we're going to be there at that time on so and so. So we'll try to update you on daily basis on what time we're going to be there and what we're going to see.
And to the automatic system. And this is quite sad, but it is the reality. So here we have a lot of very good automatic system. We're using at the best. But we don't ask an automatic system to do something that was not designed for. So we have people, we come down here with a little extra numbers on the page. Because of this, the workload, the manual workload for us goes significantly higher. But it's the best way to do down here.
And I think Rob is looking at me.
Yes, he needs to talk.
Robert, come
here.
You're hiding.
With that, this is a living encyclopedia. Yeah? It's a gentleman that you can ask him questions, not to us. You can ask questions to him.
Already too many years, Captain, we work with him too.
Yes, we know. I didn't want to scare Rob.
I have spent more time than Captain and Robert in the last years than with my family. So
this gentleman is
Thank you very much, sir. Pleased to be aboard again.
Thank
and we're shipmates.
Yes, we are. So he's the man you can ask a lot.
Thank you.
He's the man. So I think we're done here, all right? So thank you for your patience. Be good. Let's tell to everyone, be careful. Really, we have to be careful that we don't get anything blowing off the ship. For all of you that have balconies, don't leave anything that can be blown away in the balconies, because it's a pristine place. We want to keep it that way. Yeah. Thank you.
One of what is now the largest was China, a station on King George Island in 1984, and most recently in the Pole of Inaccessibility. It's only a summer station. There's the ceremonial establishment of it. Some of the older countries, for instance South Africa, produced new and larger stations and still maintaining the presence with a number of countries and bases there. The Antarctic Treaty, well, that recently adopted a flag, there it is. And if you look at the map below, the red countries are the ones with full membership of the Antarctic Treaty. The yellow ones are participatory but don't have voting rights, but have all the other rights and privileges of it. And if you look at those countries, including many of the large countries of the world, you will realize that approximately 80% of the population of the Earth is in a country that is acceding to the Antarctic Treaty. Now, getting a little more modern, you've heard about, you've seen the two maps, two little ones at the bottom, surface of the ice and below the ice. The two little ones further up, the deep drilling and finding Lake Vostok beneath the ice. And the one in the middle, the ghost mountains, that's the radio echo sounding. Look at them there, and a map showing them. Huge mountain ranges over 3 kilometers high beneath the ice sheet, the Kambucha Mountains. That's some of the latest bit of unveiling and exploration. Now, I'm running a little late, we blame the captain, but ladies and gentlemen, that's the period and how you could begin to understand the unveiling of the Antarctic. Thank you very much.
It is, yes? I stayed on board and I watched it all, absolutely key to the survival of many, many bird species, many animal species actually. But as we know, birds is my area of specialism. And, you know, you, me, everybody on the boat, we are all here because we choose to be so. Birds and animals migrate because they have to, and they have to in order to survive. And a lot of that migration, many people, particularly in the northern hemisphere, will be familiar with when the October snows arrive. We're all familiar with skeins of geese, snow geese maybe, cranes coming down from the north. And a lot of people associate migration being due to the fact of weather. And that's not strictly true, ladies and gentlemen. Migration, the driver behind migration is almost exclusively down to food availability. Food availability. So if any of us from Canada and North America, especially on the west coast. There's a species of hummingbird, I think it's called annas, yeah, and ruby-throated hummingbird. If you put feeders out for these birds, it doesn't matter how much snow falls or how cold it gets, those birds will remain pretty much in situ. So provided there is food available, it isn't really the weather that drives migration. It is generally food availability. And it is very, very precarious migration, particularly for what we call land birds. Land birds are, as it sounds really, birds that live or perch in our gardens, our parks, our yards. Any seabird that migrates, if that seabird gets into trouble, like a tern or a seagull or any of the other fantastic seabirds that we're going to see, penguins, albatrosses, they'll just drop onto the water, they'll have a little rest, and then once they've recovered, off they'll go again. Land birds do not have that luxury. I made reference to a pigeon that was flying around the boat a couple of days ago, just off the coast of Argentina. Many see that at all? One or two? Yeah? Now, that bird was in big trouble, actually. And if that bird hadn't have found this boat, and it may well be on board somewhere still, pecking around the top decks for people's crumbs, that bird's in big, big trouble. And it is crucially important to that bird that they get their timings right. And if they don't, they may well come across a lot of water, which pretty much means the end of them, or they will come across an extremely hungry predator that is all too willing to eat them up. And this next slide demonstrates this perfectly. Okay, this is let me get my pointer. This is a European skylark. We shan't see this here today, but it demonstrates crucially. This was me at work in the North Atlantic over a decade ago, and this bird was so exhausted. It made a wrong move, it made a wrong turn, it was so exhausted, it had no option. Well, its two options were either drown or land on me and risk being eaten. Now, fortunately, this is a skylark. Fortunately for the skylark, I'd had my shreddies that day. So it was okay, it was quite safe. Here it is. Ooh. And when people talk to me, Alan, what do you find interesting about birds? Is it the colour, the plumage, the crest, the plumes? It is in part. But you know what? This bird isn't particularly attractive looking, it's not stunning, it's not colourful, but what an amazing thing that this tiny bird, about 4 or 5 inches long, and maybe a dozen grams in weight, can cross oceans. It really is quite extraordinary. And this is what migration is all about. It doesn't do it because it wants to, it doesn't do it for fun, it does it to survive. So, we're going to go through. There are 4 types of migration, principal migrations down here in the southern hemisphere. We're going to go through each one in stage, and we're going to select.
Again, apologies for the slight delay. Technology sometimes gets the better of us. Now, this talk is entitled Shackleton from Cradle to Grave. It won't be a talk about Shackleton's endeavours in the ice. Other learned speakers will address those subjects over the coming days. Mine is concentrating on Shackleton the man, separate from his Antarctic endeavours. Again, let's hope the technology works. This is the house in County Kildare in Ireland where Ernest Shackleton was born in 1874. In fact, last year, 2024, was the 150th anniversary of his birth. He was the second of 10 children. His father was a farmer. The Shackletons were originally Quakers from Yorkshire in England. And you can't have this story without a little bit of Irish, English, Anglo-Irish history. Ireland has been subjugated by the English and then by the British for almost 800 years, from 1169 to 1922. Around the turn of the 17th and 18th century, the powers that be in England felt that the best way of subjugating the Irish was to bring in a landed gentry who would take over the lands previously occupied by the Irish peasantry, give the land to them free gratis in the hope that they would make a success of the lands they were given. The Shackleton family, the Quakers from Yorkshire, fell into this situation. They arrived in the early 18th century and they were given lands expropriated from the native farmers. This is a map of Ireland showing the location of the town of Athy. It's a small market town, population about 5,000 now. It was still a thriving market town at the time when Shackleton lived in the location. His house, Kilkea House, was only 4 miles from the market town of Athy. This is the entrance to the house, which still stands to this day, still occupied. And as you'll see from the slides, it's in very, very lush pasture land. In fact, County Kildare would have been regarded as the breadbasket of Ireland. It had the greatest dairy herds, it also had the greatest tillage. I mentioned at the beginning that the lands were appropriated from the native farmers, handed to the Shackleton family and others of the landed gentry. Shackleton Senior had no previous experience of farming in Yorkshire, but presumed that there was little or nothing to it, and that's why he accepted these 120 or so acres from the British authorities. This is the local church in Kilkea, near Athy in County Kildare. There's no substantial evidence that Shackleton was ever a regular churchgoer, but in later years he became slightly disenchanted with the Quakers, and he turned his attention to the beliefs of the Freemasons. He became quite active in the Freemasons, in the Freemason movement, and this educated him for the remainder of his life. It also probably gave him that unique trait as to how to deal with his fellow human beings in a way that was not superior. It also honed his leadership skills. When Shackleton grew up in the house in Kilkea, this castle was a ruin. He would have seen this castle from the upper bedroom of his house in Kilkea House. He would have played here with his fellow youngsters. They would have enjoyed the normal childish games that young children engage in, cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians. He would have had the time of his life playing in this ruin. The castle was bought by a very wealthy American, shall we say, in the last couple of decades. Millions were spent on it. It's been totally refurbished and restored. Bear in mind that the original castle dates from the 13th century. It is now a 7-star luxury hotel. Magnificent structure. Turning back to the house where Shackleton was born, it's in this house that he would have developed his lifelong love of poetry. His father also loved poetry, and one of the great family games around the dinner table for Sunday meal was the father would recite one particular line from a poem, and he'd ask the children to identify the poet, complete the verse, and name the poem. They all engaged in this lovely parlour game. You can imagine that for young Shackleton at the age of 4 or 5, his imagination was running rife, not just with the playground of the castle on his doorstep, but also on the many introductions he would have had to poems and poets. You can imagine the impressionable young 4-year-old Shackleton being hugely impressed with doggerel-like faraway places with strange sounding names are far away over the sea. Those faraway places with strange sounding names are calling, still calling to me. And believe it or not, that's how Shackleton lived his life. It was said of him in later years that he could quote poetry by the yard. This is the town of Athy as it was in the 1800s, 1880s, where Shackleton and his family would have come in for shopping, etc., etc. This is the same square today, a little bit more rejuvenated. I mentioned earlier